Hi everybody, Joe Gentili from Left Tail Risk Advisors. So in this video, I want to go through the importance of special needs trusts with regards to special needs planning. So for those of you that have a child or a loved one with special needs that may complicate their ability to support and care for themselves throughout their life without having some assistance, it is very important that sooner rather than later, you start the process of educating yourself and implementing some special need planning. Um, it's a process that has some cost, financial costs, there's some emotional cost to it, and it's not an easy topic to visit because there's a lot of very difficult decisions that you have to make about how you want somebody you love cared for when you're gone, and that's not it's not an easy thing to envision and an easy thing to plan for, but at the same time it's very important. And if you start educating yourself on this topic, one of the things that you're going to learn very quickly is that a special needs trust is one of the most important tools, if not the most important tool, that's available in order to help provide for a special needs loved one or child. And what a special needs trust is essentially to um, it's a way to hold money and provide instructions and guardrails on how that money is used and spent to benefit the loved one throughout their life. And it's important that the trust be funded. There's a number of ways to fund it. One of the most popular ways is through life insurance, and that's because life insurance can provide certainty, or as much certainty as possible, that there's going to be an amount of money available upon your death or upon the death of yourself and your spouse to provide for the child or loved one. And so here are the benefits of having a special needs trust. So first, as I mentioned with the funding, you're going to want to have an earmarked amount of money to provide for the loved one or child throughout their life. And so when you set up a special needs trust and you fund that trust, you're going to have money that's dedicated just for that purpose. So if you have something like in mind of a more informal arrangement where you have somebody that you trust has the money, you're not going to have the legal guardrails in place to make sure that it's used in the way that you intend it to be used, um, if you have a trust in place. And you're not going to be able to make sure that there's just a guarded amount of money that's just for use of the benefit of the child. And along those lines, another benefit is you're going to have a trustee put in place with the special needs trust. If you um, have the means and there's enough money that's going to be in the trust, you may want to have an institutional trustee. That's a professional company that will provide trust services as to how the money is invested and how the money is spent. A lot of people prefer having that because it's a hard job being a trustee. And having an institutional trustee takes a lot of emotion out of it, and it also introduces a level of professionalism that may not be available if you rely on family and friends, but you could also have family and friends as trustees or co-trustees. And as the grantor of the trust, if you're creating this, you're able to put in instructions as to how the trust money will be managed and used. So it gives you, as the parent, if you're funding it, a certain amount of control, even when you're gone, as to how that money is used. Another benefit is setting up the special needs trust allows the child or loved one to maintain access to government programs that are very important for them. One, probably the program that comes up the most in this is Medicaid, which is very important for providing healthcare and other types of care. Medicaid is means tested. It means that you can't have assets or a significant amount of assets in your name and still access Medicaid. And what holding the money in a trust does is it keeps it out of the child or the loved one's name themselves. So in doing that, by having the money in a trust, they're still able to access or have that trust money used for their benefit, but at the same time not disqualify them from government programs because they don't own the money themselves directly. Along those lines, since they don't own the money directly, it's in a trust, that money is now protected from creditors of the child or even of yourself, depending on how you set up the trust. And that's very important because things happen in life. People end up with financial losses. Sometimes there's lawsuits, and you want to make sure that no matter what happens on that front, that money that you have earmarked to protect your child is going to be safe and not reachable by creditors. So you want to do everything possible to ensure that result. Another creditor that people tend to forget about is divorce. That's a big one. So if your child gets married and gets divorced, you want to make sure that the funds that are available to care for your child are not going to be end up getting split up in the divorce because they're a marital asset. If they're held in a trust and not in the child's name, they're not a marital asset. So it's another line of protection to make sure that the money that you have earmarked for your child is actually going to go to care for them during life and not get diverted to a spouse or to something else. Another benefit, and this goes again to the control piece, is that a lot of people who have a special needs child, they don't have one child, they may have multiple children, and they have some difficult decisions to make as to how to allocate their legacy upon death. And by having this money in the trust, you're able to set it up in such a way that the money is there to care for the special needs child during their lifetime. And when the child passes, you can have the trust then distribute the money or the remainder of the money in the trust to, for instance, that child's siblings, or really any way that the parents choose to have that done. But it gives you a certain amount of flexibility to ensure that the remainder of the funds are able to be used as you, the grantor, see fit. So again, I want to stress that I understand this is a difficult process to go through. This isn't what most people would call fun planning, because you're planning for some things that are really difficult to deal with. It's very difficult if you have a child and that child is reliant on you for care, to imagine a day when you're not going to be there to provide it. Um, it's difficult for you. It's difficult to imagine the impact on the child. But while nothing can replace the child's parents, there's really no sum of money that can do that. It's certainly the quality of life of the child and their ability to enjoy life will be much greater having this piece of the puzzle taken care of and having a pool of money available for them that is going to be well managed through a trustee, and it's going to be available for them regardless of what happens. So if you're using life insurance to fund the special needs trust, you know that there's going to be at least a certain amount of money in there as long as you um, take care of that life insurance policy. So you can get a lot of peace out of doing this planning. So while it's difficult to think about and it's difficult to go through, on the other side of it, once it's done, there could be a lot of relief and peace knowing that you've done everything that you can to make sure that your loved one or your child is going to be as well cared for as possible when you're not there to do it. So I strongly encourage people, if you haven't gone through the process or you've been putting it off, to go through it, because there's some very, very real legal benefits and financial benefits, which I've just gone through, but also just the emotional benefit of having the peace of mind that you've done what you can do on this front. So any questions, please feel free to reach out. And if you found this video useful or educational, I encourage you to reach out. Thank you. Have a great day.